Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bible Q&A. Today we're discussing who ordered David's census, God or Satan? 2 Samuel chapter 24 and 1 Chronicles chapter 21 give conflicting accounts of who made David conduct an illegal census. 2 Samuel attributes this census to God, while 1 Chronicles chapter 21 attributes it to the devil. Who then made David count the people, God or Satan? Well, the Bible is very clear on this issue. God cannot do evil. Elihu told Job, "Yea, surely God will not do wickedly, neither will the Almighty pervert judgment." Job chapter 34 verse 12. After all, God's actions are the definition of good, according to 1 John chapter 4 verse 8. He certainly cannot make people do evil either, as James noted in the first chapter of his epistle. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. James chapter 1 verse 13. Otherwise, Christians would balk at temptation, contrary to Jesus' advice in Matthew chapter 5 verse 11, because the same person they are praying to lessen their temptation is the cause of their temptation in the first place. Rather, God lets other people, like Satan, tempt his followers. James also said, "But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed." James chapter 1 verse 14. The devil is always looking for people to lead away from God, according to 1 Peter chapter 5 verses 8 to 9. But God only lets him do that if it will serve as a good test of his followers' character. This is how God knows who is strong enough to follow him and who isn't, according to Zechariah chapter 13 verse 9. The book of Job explains how this plays out. Satan asked whether he could tempt Job in Job chapter 1 verse 9, and this time God agreed to see how Job would react. Job got depressed, as anyone would facing his kind of struggle, but at least he reacted to it better than his friends, who assumed that he must be a wicked person to receive this kind of suffering. It's also interesting to note why David fell for Satan's temptation, and compare it to a similar temptation that nations are facing nowadays. In David's time, the devil convinced David to trust in his military. He wanted David to begin to construct a larger and larger army, contrary to the advice of Deuteronomy chapter 17 verse 16, and create military alliances with other nations. Asa made such an alliance with Syria in 2 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 3, an alliance that eventually led to the end of his reign. Similarly, in our time, nations of Christian heritage are forming military alliances with each other, like Russia and Belarus and the US and Europe, instead of following the Christian principles that would prevent such wars in the first place, like turning the other cheek, according to Matthew chapter 5 verse 39, and forming diplomatic resolutions to conflicts, like Luke chapter 14 verse 32. And so, we can conclude that both 2 Samuel and 1 Chronicles are correct. They just look at this issue in different ways. 2 Samuel, drawn from the tradition of Judges, compares the famine of Israel to the various invasions that Israel suffered as a result of their sin. As a result, like the book of Judges, it attributes the cause of the famine to God. 1 Chronicles, on the other hand, drawn from the tradition of Ezra and Nehemiah, focuses on David as a political and religious leader, and the enemies he had to face during his reign. The book then concludes with David facing his biggest enemy of all, Satan, and suffering initial defeat before God steps in. And indeed, it is 1 Chronicles that shows us how Christians face temptations nowadays. Satan goes out tempting people with the permission of God, according to 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8, while God also gives his followers the tools to resist him. As St. Paul told us, "There hath no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it." 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13. And that is where I'm going to stop with this Bible Q&A, where we discussed who ordered David's infamous census. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe.